The rain was falling slowly outside the small-town diner, tapping on the glass windows like tiny fingers. It was late evening, almost closing time. Only a soft yellow light filled the place, giving the diner a warm but lonely feeling. The world outside looked dark, empty and quiet. Inside, Mia, the young waitress, moved from table to table. She had worked many late-night shifts before, but tonight something felt strange. She didn't know why. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the cold wind that came in every time the door opened. Or maybe it was just her tired mind. But still, something felt wrong. The diner had only 3 customers left, an old couple sharing a slice of pie, and a truck driver drinking coffee slowly, half asleep. The manager was in the kitchen, busy with dishes. Mia was the only one serving. She looked at the clock. Only 1 more hour, and she could go home. She gave a small smile to herself. But right at that moment, the door suddenly slammed open. The sound was so loud that even the old couple jumped. A cold wave of air entered the place. Mia's heart skipped a beat as she turned around. 3 men walked in, big, loud, drunk, and smiling, in a way that made her skin crawl. Their heavy boots hit the floor hard with every step. They didn't look like normal customers. They looked like trouble. People around them shrank back in fear. Mia felt her throat turn dry. She forced herself to stay calm. The men took a table right in the center, throwing themselves into the seats like they owned the place. They laughed loudly, almost shouting. One of them kicked a chair away just for fun. Mia took a deep breath. She walked toward them with a tight smile. "Good evening. How can I help you?" One of the men leaned forward, his eyes scanning her from head to toe. Well, look who we have here." Mia wished she could disappear. Another man slapped the table and laughed. "Come closer, sweetheart. We don't bite. Unless we want to." Mia kept her voice calm. "What would you like to order?" The first man gave a slow smirk. "You, but I guess we'll start with food." All 3 burst into loud laughter. The sound echoed through the diner. The old couple lowered their heads. The truck driver stared at the counter, pretending he didn't hear anything. No one wanted to get involved. Mia wrote the order quickly, keeping her distance. But before she turned to leave, one thug grabbed her wrist tight. She froze. "Hey," he said, his voice low and dirty. "Don't walk away so fast. We like good service." Mia gently pulled her hand back and forced a smile. "Your food will be ready soon." She walked away as quickly as possible. Inside, her heart was racing. Her palms were sweating. She felt like crying, but she didn't. She needed this job. She had bills. She had responsibilities. She couldn't afford to make a scene. From behind her, she heard the men laughing again. Their voices were getting louder, ruder, more aggressive. Minutes later, when Mia returned with their drinks, things got worse. One man flicked a straw at her. Another tried to touch her again. A third one shouted, "Serve us, BTCH, faster." Mia stood there in shock, but she stayed silent. She didn't want them to get angrier. She didn't want to fight. The rest of the customers looked scared. No one said a word. The manager stayed inside the kitchen, unaware of everything happening. The thugs stood up from their chairs. They moved closer to Mia. They blocked her path. Their shadows fell over her like a dark cloud. Mia felt trapped. And then, the diner door opened again. The sound was slow, heavy, powerful. Everyone turned to look. What walked in next would change everything. The bell above the diner door made a soft metallic sound as it opened. But the atmosphere changed instantly. The cold air that entered felt heavier, almost warning everyone to stay silent. Mia slowly lifted her eyes toward the entrance, still shaking from the thugs around her. Standing in the doorway were 2 figures at first. Large, strong, covered in leather jackets with patches and chains. Their boots were muddy from the rain. Their faces were serious, unreadable. They didn't smile, didn't speak. They simply stepped inside. The thugs, who were earlier acting bold and loud, suddenly paused. The leader of the 3 thugs narrowed his eyes. "What the hell?" "Now bikers," he muttered. The 2 bikers moved aside, and 4 more entered behind them. 6 in total. Silent, calm, dangerous. But in control, they didn't look like men who searched for trouble. They looked like men who finished trouble. The customers in the diner straightened up in their seats. The old couple whispered to each other nervously. The truck driver raised his head for the first time. Something about these bikers made everyone's heartbeat slow down, yet somehow, they also felt safer. Mia stood frozen, halfway between fear and relief. She didn't know if these new men would help her, or cause new problems. But she did notice one thing. Their eyes weren't on her. They were on the thugs. The biker leader stepped forward. He had a thick beard, gray streaks in his hair, and calm but sharp eyes. He wasn't the biggest one in size, yet he carried a strong presence, like someone people didn't want to challenge. He walked towards the counter slowly. The heavy steps echoed across the room. The whole diner kept watching. The thugs tried to act uninterested. The leader thug stretched his arms and forced a laugh. "Look at that." A whole circus walked in. But his voice shook slightly. Mia tried to step back quietly, but the thug beside her placed his hand on her shoulder. "Where are you going?" he whispered in a low, threatening tone. The biker leader saw that. He stopped walking. His eyes lowered, noticing Mia's fear. Then he raised his head again and looked directly at the thug touching her. He didn't speak yet. He didn't have to. His stare alone was enough to freeze the air. One of the other bikers, a tall man with tattoos, tilted his head. "You boys causing trouble?" he asked casually, but his voice carried weight. The thug released Mia instantly, pretending to stretch his arm. No," he stuttered. "Just having fun." The biker leader didn't blink. "Fun?" he repeated, as if tasting the word. He stepped closer to the counter and leaned against it. Still watching the thugs from the corner of his eye, Mia stepped away and stood beside the coffee machine. Breathing fast but quietly, the thug leader tried to keep the upper hand. "Well," he said louder, "this is our table. We're busy. You guys go do your biker stuff." His friends laughed nervously. The biker with tattoos pulled out a chair and sat down. On his back to the thugs, but his eyes still sharp. "We'll sit where we want." The thugs exchanged looks. They didn't like this. They were used to scaring people, not being ignored. The leader stood up halfway from his chair. "You think you're tough?" he spat. The biker leader finally stepped away from the counter. He walked toward the thug's table slowly, each step steady and heavy. The whole diner went silent again. He stopped right in front of the thug, close enough that the thug had to look up at him. "If you need to shout," the biker leader said quietly, "shout at me." That single sentence hit the thug harder than a punch. His friends stared wide-eyed. The other customers held their breath. The thug leader opened his mouth to answer, but no sound came out. The biker leader didn't smile, didn't threaten. He simply said, "Sit down." It wasn't a request. It was a command, and for the first time that night, the thug leader obeyed. He slowly sat back down. The room stayed tense. Thick with fear and confusion, Mia watched from behind the counter, her heart pounding because she knew something bigger was coming, and she was right. The real confrontation had only just begun. For a few seconds, the diner stayed completely silent. The only sound was the rain outside, hitting the windows softly. The 6 bikers sat calmly, but their presence filled the room with a heavy tension that everyone could feel. The thugs looked at each other, unsure of what to do next. They were used to being loud, rude, and in control. But now, with the bikers watching them, their fake confidence began to shake. Mia stood behind the counter, trying to steady her breathing. Her hands were still trembling. She didn't know these bikers. She didn't know if they were safe. But watching the thugs sit back down gave her a tiny feeling of relief. Still, this wasn't over. The leader of the thugs leaned forward in his seat, whispering harshly to his friends. "We can't let them walk all over us," he muttered. But his voice wasn't loud like before. It was only for his friends to hear, and even they looked unsure. One of the bikers, a bald, Muscular man with a chain around his neck placed his coffee cup gently on the table. "You boys need anything?" he asked Mia in a calm voice. Mia blinked in surprise. No. Thank you. I'm okay," she whispered. The biker nodded and leaned back in his seat. His calmness didn't feel weak. It felt dangerous in a quiet, controlled way. The thug leader watched all this with growing anger. His pride was burning. He wasn't used to being ignored. He wasn't used to being powerless. He slammed his palm on the table suddenly, making the plates shake. "That's it," he shouted, standing up again. Everyone flinched, even the old couple. The biker leader looked at him slowly, almost with boredom. "You stood up once," he said softly. "Don't stand up again." The thug leader's face turned red. "What, you think you own this diner?" he yelled. "No," the biker leader replied calmly. "But you don't either." Mia pressed her hand against her chest. Her heart felt like it would jump out. The thug leader stepped forward, trying to show he wasn't scared. "You think we're scared of you biker clowns?" he growled. One of the bikers chuckled under his breath. Another shook his head slowly, as if this whole situation was predictable. But the biker leader didn't laugh. He stepped closer to the thug, leaving barely 2 feet between them. "I think you're scared of someone," he said quietly. The thug leader clenched his fists. "And who's that?" The biker leader pointed a finger. Not at himself, not at his bikers, but at Mia, he said. The thug leader froze. "You're scared of the truth," the biker continued. "You didn't walk in here looking for food. You walked in here looking for someone weaker than you. That's the only kind of person you can bully." A few people in the diner gasped softly. The thug leader tried to laugh it off, but his voice cracked. "You don't know anything about us." The biker leader leaned in, lowering his voice. "I know cowards when I see them." The room fell silent again. The thug leader's jaw tightened. His friends looked away, not wanting to meet his eyes. He was losing control, losing his power. And when a coward loses his power, he becomes dangerous. Suddenly, the thug leader grabbed a ketchup bottle from the table and threw it on the floor. The bottle exploded, red ketchup spreading like blood across the tiles. "Enough," he screamed. "We run this place tonight." The customers gasped. Mia covered her mouth. The manager peeked from the kitchen, shocked and afraid. The biker with tattoos stood up. The leader raised his hand, signaling him to stay seated. The biker leader faced the thugs again. "That's your last outburst," he warned. "Next time, you won't just be cleaning up ketchup." The thugs stiffened, sensing the shift in energy. Mia felt chills run down her spine. She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew this night was far from over. The real danger was just beginning. The tension in the diner had grown so heavy that it felt like the air stopped moving. Even the rain outside seemed quieter now, as if the world itself was watching what would happen next. Mia stood behind the counter, clutching a towel tightly, her knuckles turning white. She didn't dare blink. The thugs were shaking with anger, their pride wounded. The bikers were steady, calm, and silent, like soldiers waiting for a command. And in the middle of all this, the customers held their breath, hoping the situation didn't explode into violence. The thug leader stared at the biker leader, his chest rising and falling quickly. "You think you're heroes?" he shouted. His voice cracked with frustration, but the biker leader didn't move. He didn't raise his voice. He simply stepped forward. He walked slowly, each step echoing loudly on the diner floor. The heavy boots, the quiet confidence, the way he didn't rush at all made the thug leader take one step back without even realizing. The biker leader stopped just 3 feet away from him. "I didn't come here to be a hero," he said calmly. "But I won't let you treat people like toys." The thug leader laughed, a nervous, broken sound. "Oh, please." "You're just some biker. You think you scare me?" The biker leader leaned his head slightly to the side. "You're shaking," he said softly, and he was right. The thug leader's fingers were shaking. The thug looked at his own hands quickly, then hid them behind him, embarrassed and furious. One of the thug's friends tried to help. "Hey man, just leave it. They're not worth it." But this only made the leader angrier. "Shut up," he barked. "I'm handling this." The biker team stayed still, watching, They trusted their leader. They knew he didn't need help to handle situations like this. The old couple whispered a prayer. The truck driver slowly stood up, unsure if he should leave or stay. Mia wanted to hide, but she also wanted to see what would happen. The biker leader crossed his arms. "You grabbed her," he said, pointing to Mia. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The thug leader swallowed hard. "It was just fun," he snapped. "She's a waitress. It's her job to serve." The words hit Mia like a slap. She lowered her eyes. The biker leader raised a finger and shook his head slowly. "That's not service," he said. "That's fear. You gave her fear. And I don't like men who give fear to women." The entire diner nodded silently. Yes, that's exactly what happened. The thug leader stepped forward again, trying one more time to pretend he had power. "You don't make the rules here." The biker leader didn't step back. "No," he said firmly. "But I can show you how rules work." The thug leader blinked in confusion. What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," the biker leader answered, "that you're going to apologize to her." The diner fell silent. Even the lights seemed to stop flickering. The thug leader's mouth dropped open. "Me apologize to her? Are you crazy?" The biker leader lowered his voice even more. "You will apologize," he repeated, "or you will learn a lesson you won't forget." The thugs' faces turned pale. The biker with tattoos leaned back in his chair, cracking his knuckles. Another biker stretched his arms as if warming up. The whole team didn't need words. Their movements alone were enough to scare anyone. Mia felt her heart beating fast. Nobody had ever stood up for her like this before. She wasn't used to strength being used to protect her. It felt strange and safe. The thug leader stepped back, then forward again, unsure of what to do. His pride wanted to fight, but his fear wanted to run. Finally he shouted, "You think you can boss us around? You think we're scared of a bunch of bikers?" He turned to his friends as if expecting support, but his friends didn't look strong anymore. They looked small. They looked defeated. They looked like they wanted to disappear. The biker leader saw this. He pointed again at Mia. "She deserves respect." The thug leader trembled. He opened his mouth to speak into what he said next would decide the fate of the entire night, because everything was about to change. The thug leader stood frozen, staring at the biker leader as if he couldn't believe this was happening. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. It was the first time all night he didn't know what to say. His confidence had cracked completely. The biker leader didn't break eye contact. He waited, not impatiently, not angrily, just calmly, like a man who already knew how this would end. Finally, the thug leader forced out a laugh, but it sounded weak and shaky. "Apologize? You want me to apologize to a waitress?" His voice cracked again, proving he wasn't as bold as he pretended. The biker leader took one step closer. Not fast, not threatening. Just enough to make the thug leader step back without meaning to. "You hurt her," the biker leader said. "You scared her." His voice was steady, but his eyes weren't soft anymore. "You will fix that." The diner stayed silent. Even the rain outside seemed to soften, as if waiting for what would happen next. The thug's two friends were whispering urgently. "Man, just say sorry," one muttered. "Let's end this and go," the other begged. But the thug leader shook his head. "No. No way. I'm not apologizing to anyone." His pride was bigger than his sense. He puffed out his chest, trying to act brave. "You bikers think you run the world, but you don't run me." The biker leader just looked at him, calm as ever. "You don't even run yourself," he replied. A soft gasp came from the old couple's table. Even they could feel how sharp those words were. The thug leader felt embarrassed. Anger boiled inside him. "That's it," he shouted. He grabbed a salt shaker and threw it against the wall. Glass shattered everywhere. Mia jumped in fear. The manager in the kitchen shouted, "What was that?" but didn't come out. The bikers didn't flinch. Not a single one stood up. They didn't need to. Their leader was enough. The thug leader pointed a shaking finger at the biker leader. "You want to fight? Is that what you want?" The biker leader finally spoke louder, but he didn't shout. I want you to respect her. Simple words. Strong meaning. But the thug leader wasn't listening anymore. His pride was bleeding. He turned toward Mia, his face twisted with anger. You. He yelled, you think you're better than me? You think you can hide behind these bikers? Mia stepped back, terrified. The thug took one step toward her hand, then everything changed. The biker leader stepped in front of her instantly, like a wall of steel. You don't talk to her, he said firmly. You don't look at her. You don't go near her. The thug leader made a mistake. He pushed the biker leader's shoulder. It was a weak push. But it was still a push. Every biker in the room stood up at the exact same moment. 6 chairs scraped the floor loudly. The sound echoed like thunder. The thug leader froze. He realized how big his mistake was. The biker leader didn't punch him, didn't grab him, didn't shout. He simply stepped closer, almost nose to nose, and said in a low, dangerous voice, "That was your last mistake." The thug leader's breathing turned fast and uneven. His eyes darted between the 6 bikers surrounding him. He felt trapped, small, powerless. His friends whispered behind him, "Dude, stop. Just stop. Don't do this." No. The thug leader swallowed hard. Sweat rolled down his face. He could feel the weight of 6 pairs of eyes staring at him. Finally, his shoulders dropped. He looked at Mia with fear, not Pradand, said 2 quiet words. "I'm sorry," the diner gasped softly. Even Mia took a step back in shock. It wasn't a warm apology. It wasn't heartfelt. But it was real fear forcing him to do what he should have done earlier. The biker leader nodded once. Good. Now leave. The thug leader didn't argue. He turned, grabbed his friends, and hurried out of the diner so fast that the bell above the door rang wildly. When the door shut behind them, the diner fell into the softest silence of the whole night. Mia stood there, her hands on her mouth. She had never felt so protected before, and she didn't know it yet. But the night wasn't over. Something unexpected was still waiting for her. The diner felt strangely quiet after the thugs rushed out. The loud voices, the threats, the chaos, all of it disappeared the moment the door closed behind them. Only the soft hum of the lights and the gentle rain outside remained. For the first time that night, Mia felt her chest loosen. Her hands were still trembling, but the fear that had been gripping her heart slowly began to fade. She looked around the room at the customers, at the broken glass, at the mess on the floor, and finally at the 6 bikers who had stood up for her. Without hesitation, the biker leader turned toward her. His expression was calm again, almost gentle. You okay? He asked softly. Mia nodded, though her voice wouldn't come out. She tried to speak, but her words got stuck in her throat. The truth was, she didn't know how to thank someone for saving her like that. She had never been defended so fiercely. The old couple whispered, "God bless you," to the bikers. The truck driver walked up and gave the biker leader a firm nod. That was real brave, he said quietly before sitting back down. The biker leader shrugged. Wasn't brave, he replied. Just right. Mia finally found her voice, though it was small and shaky. Thank you, really. Thank you. The biker leader gave a slow smile. No need for thanks. You were doing your job. They were doing the wrong thing. His words warmed Mia more than she expected. It had been a long shift, a long night, and she felt exhausted, but for the first time, she didn't feel alone. One of the bikers walked toward her with a broom. Where's the dustpan? He asked casually. Mia blinked. You? You don't have to clean that. The biker laughed softly. We made enough noise in here by standing up. Least we can do is help with the mess. Soon, 2 bikers were sweeping the shattered glass. Another picked up the fallen chairs. The manager finally stepped out from the kitchen, completely shocked to see 6 bikers cleaning his diner. Oh my, the manager whispered. I didn't expect. The biker with tattoos looked at him. Sir, your employee handled trouble alone. She deserves respect. The manager nodded quickly and turned to Mia. You're okay, right? I'm fine, Mia answered, with a smile that felt real this time. The diner slowly returned to normal. The old couple finished their pie. The truck driver paid his bill. The bikers sat at their table, ordered coffee and pie, and ate quietly like any other customers. When Mia brought their order, she placed the plates carefully on the table. "This one is on the house," she said shyly. But the biker leader shook his head. "No free meals. We pay fair." He slid a stack of bills onto the table, much more than needed. Mia's eyes widened. "That's too much. It's for the food," the biker leader said, "and for the trouble you went through." She didn't know what to say. She simply nodded, touched by the kindness she never expected from men who looked so tough as they finished their meal. The rain outside finally began to slow. The night felt calmer, safer. Mia wiped the counters slowly, watching the bikers prepare to leave. The leader zipped up his jacket and turned to her one last time. "Remember something," he said gently. "People like those thugs. They talk big because they're small inside. But you didn't break. You stayed strong. Not everyone can do that." Mia felt her eyes burn with emotion. "Thank you," she said again, this time with confidence. He nodded once. "Take care, kid." The bell above the door rang softly as the bikers left, disappearing into the rainy night. Their motorcycles roared alive. The sound didn't frighten Mia. It felt like a promise that good people still existed. She stood near the window, watching the red taillights fade into the distance. A warm feeling spread inside her chest. For the first time in a long while, she felt safe. And as she locked the diner that night, she whispered to herself, "Sometimes heroes don't wear uniforms. Sometimes they ride motorcycles." The night closed, but the memory of those protectors stayed with her forever.